Gough Whitlam, the architect of modern Labor, the father of universal healthcare, and the eye of the fiercest political storm in Australian history, has died aged 98. Friends and foes alike have acknowledged the former Prime Minister as a giant figure in the story of our nation, a hero or villain depending on who's telling the tale. Gough Whitlam's impact on Australia far exceeds the mere 3 years and 11 days he spent in office. He ushered in a period of rapid and unprecedented social reform, much of which is still with us today, in areas as diverse as education, Indigenous affairs and the law. But his failure to effectively manage the economy so he could pay for his bold vision sowed the seeds of his dismissal in 1975, a seismic event that still reverberates through Australia's political landscape. In a moment, the former Prime Minister Paul Keating will join me to discuss the Whitlam legacy and his personal recollections. But first, Adam Harvey looks back at Gough Whitlam's rise and his chaotic fall.
Is empowered by that section of the Constitution to dissolve the Senate and the House of Representatives simultaneously, have been fulfilled in respect of the several proposed laws in tissue.
Gough Whitlam's darkest hour. Sacked as Prime Minister, and the moment his legend was assured.
The proclamation which you have just heard read by the Governor-General's official secretary was countersigned Malcolm Fraser. Who will undoubtedly go down in Australian history from Remembrance Day 1975 as Kerr's Kerr.
His end was spectacular. His rise was almost biblical.
In the beginning, there was Gough. And darkness was upon the face of the electorate until the spirit of Gough moved over Lake Burley Griffin.
The man who is going to be the first Labor Prime Minister of Australia for 23 years, Gough Whitlam.
Could I ask you some personal questions?
Yeah.
You've been described as a loner, a man who doesn't make close friends. Would you care to comment on that?
I'm not very gregarious, that's true enough.
A characteristic which some of your critics see as one worthy of note from time to time is that you are impetuous. How do you note that?
Under the provocations I've suffered, I think I'm extraordinarily sweet-tempered and tolerant.
A verbose intellectual became a man of the people, thanks to a masterpiece of political advertising designed to humanise Whitlam after market research showed that he came across as arrogant and out of touch.
As soon as the election was over, Mr. Whitlam started putting some of his election promises into effect. Australian troops were pulled out of Vietnam. The promised sweeping social reforms started to appear, Medibank and free education.
And for the first time, land rights for Aborigines.
I solemnly hand to you these deeds as proof in Australian law that these lands belong to the Gurindji people.
Appeared in the land, and he came with lawyers, and he came with great ceremony, and through Vincent's fingers poured a handful of sand.
But it's the first time that the burglar has been appointed as the caretaker.
But Whitlam's reformist government presided over 3 years of tumult.
During our 3 years in office, the Senate rejected 93 bills which had been passed by the House of Representatives. between 1901 and 1971, the Senate had rejected only 68 government bills. So there was an extraordinary degree of obstruction.
The Whitlam government lost control of the Senate and then itself amid a series of scandals. The cash-strapped government's lowest point was its attempt to borrow billions from Arab states via an obscure money dealer called Tirath Kemlani.
How long have you been involved in this particular aspect of your business? Raising money?
Raising money only about 1 year.
Only about 1 year?
Yes.
It was because the whole record of the government over a considerable period was disgraceful. There'd been scandal after scandal. There'd been deception of the Executive Council, deception of the Governor-General himself. And, you know, it's easy to forget these things now.
Well, may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
The public outpouring of support didn't translate into votes. He lost the next two elections, but Gough Whitlam remains an indelible figure of Australian politics, defined by the breadth of his reforms, the chaos of his government, and the manner of his dismissal.